Guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel, Studio Aiden. This is going to be something a little bit different than I usually do, than I have done. I mean, I've only made 3 videos or whatever, but this channel was going to be maybe animation, camera focus type of thing. Yeah, I'm trying a new format here with some Tony Hawk's gameplay, video game stuff. I know pretty oversaturated in that, but I've been inspired by a few channels like YLearn and Once Faded and Loaded Buggy and other people like those channels that are kind of bringing back this commentary style. So, yeah. Anyway, the topic I really wanted to kind of talk about today was something that's kind of near and dear to me, which is social media kind of at a larger play. I grew up in the 2000s, so I, like a lot of other millennials, kind of grew up alongside kind of the ground roots or grassroots of what social media is today. And I really want to talk about just a couple of things in regards to two websites that I think I hope would be a revival of this kind of early social media internet age, as well as talk about really making the computer the time you log on to the internet, you engage with it rather than it kind of being at our fingertips. So I want to kind of firstly talk about these two websites. The websites are Space Hey, formerly known as Hey Space, renamed after a copyright issue, and NeoCities, which is kind of a revival on the GeoCities format. GeoCities, if you're not aware, was a website hosting service that was kind of active between the mid 90s to late 2000s. Basically, people could customize their websites, basically do whatever they wanted with them. There's quite a number of good videos out on YouTube. If you're not familiar with that, I highly recommend checking some of them out if you haven't. And Space Hey is a platform that is reviving the MySpace format, user interface, whatever you want to call it. Essentially just taking what MySpace was and recreating it kind of almost for a one-for-one. Very similar to GeoCities, but more so centralized with the website itself. So these two platforms I kind of have been using recently, and I'll probably link to some websites that I find pretty interesting below in the description or even on the video itself. And these websites I think really go against the grain, obviously, of today's social media stuff. You've got like heaps of corporatized stuff like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube even, not to slight the platform that I'm uploading to, but and even YouTube used to have such a interesting kind of unique personalization to its platform. For those unaware as well, who maybe used YouTube after, I think, like 2011 maybe. YouTube also used to have kind of these personalized, channels to them. And I don't think it's any secret that, since then everything's become flattened, everything's become corporatized, clean, and that's helpful for users, but at the same time, it takes out a lot of the uniqueness, personality, kind of just the interest and intrigue that I feel the internet once was. But really, that's that. The websites there with Space Hey, GeoCities, and that kind of take a backseat to the main thing that I really want to talk about, which is how we go about interacting with the internet and our computer at a large, and just social media. So, at some stage back in the 90s and early 2000s, even to mid 2010s, the internet used to be a place that you kind of just kind of come home, jump onto your computer, log in, and basically talk, respond, and see what's going on more or less in that zone, in that section. Basically, your home computer was your gateway and door. And while it's nice and handy for us to have the ability to be able to keep up to date, um, respond and socialize at a moment's notice with our phones and things like that, it actually stops us from engaging in a like a holistic, proper way with social media. I know this is like a pretty common comparison, but social media really has become junk food for the brain. Um, and I think we need to start normalizing or reintroducing the idea that the computer is something where we just come down, sit down, look at the social media there, engage with it there, engage with the technology there, and leave it behind. I'm not saying to destroy or remove the technology from your phone entirely, because obviously it has its uses, it's extremely helpful. But I think in a greater aspect, um, people these days are very wide into everything. Um, Having just a place where you can come and go, where it's not always in your vicinity, and you've always got this thing making you aware of everything 24/7, is really detrimental. Um, so not being able to delegate that to a home computer room or something, like bring back the computer room, is what I'm saying. You know, um, too much has become centralized, and too much has combined with like computers and technology. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for the advancement of technology, with the exception of a few things. But yeah, there's just too much that's being combined with technology, and particularly social media. Bringing me back to, I guess, my point about these two websites, Space Hay and NeoCities. These are two websites that I have seen, and granted, they kind of have a much younger audience, which is interesting because I mean, the people that were using these websites during that era were the younger crowd. I mean, myself included, right? When I used MySpace, nowadays Space Hay, right? When I used MySpace, I was, in my teens, and the way I interacted with those um, were very teenagey stuff. So while these new websites are mostly populated by younger people, I feel like they are the people that are able to kind of reignite this old internet. And I don't want to be sounding like an old frog, an unk, as you know, a lot of people might say, but I just really think that it's important to have this delegation, this separation, and person being having having websites be personal and not just so kind of bastardized with corporatization and just corporate shit now on the internet. That's what it's become. And it's really like hard to feel good about yourself when you are using these platforms. Which brings me to my next point. I have, in the last couple of years, detached myself, or maybe not even the last couple of years, the last like 5 years, have slowly detached myself from social media. I've removed things like Instagram, uh, Facebook, or like I slowly weaned myself away from those. And it's not like I've removed things like Instagram entirely. I myself run an art account that I need Instagram sort of to be able to connect with other artists. And that, despite it kind of the algorithm working against me, it's still how I keep up to date with them. And I wish some of these platforms would replace that. If we could get enough people to kind of, build platforms like Blue Sky and other platforms like it, um, to kind of take back kind of this control of how social media is engaged with, kind of like a free platform. you know I'm not saying like um, it can't be controlled, like so things don't get too crazy, but just platforms that, you know, make you feel happy to be there. And there's obviously a lot of these platforms that don't. Um, and the fact that we have these platforms on our fingertips just make this sort of thing even worse. So really, I guess I want to try and make these videos short, but I guess what I'm trying to get across is I highly recommend that you do the same sort of thing. You know, remove yourself from these Instagrams, or not entirely, but just in a way that you can separate yourself on a daily basis. So that way, if you do use it, you know, use it at your computer for this period of time and whatnot. Engage in it in a way where you're engaging with friends or compatriots or, you know, peers, and not in a way that it's always all consuming, like comparison. So, you know, for me, that what that looks like is Instagram is now on the Instagram app on my computer. I actually have to physically open it on my computer and look through it, and that helps me where I don't do this whole doom scrolling shit that people do. Um, Facebook is now, you know, being for me delegated for Facebook Marketplace. Like, literally, I've created a new account because, yeah, I want to get like occasionally furniture that looks good, that people are like uniquely selling through that platform. So just find ways to make it so that these platforms are kind of not your best friend. They're like, they just add to your life in a platonic sense, and they're not like all consuming. Yeah, let's basically take back this whole like home computer setup, you know. um, I just hate how it's become, and I think it's, you know, really time for a change, and I think other people are feeling that way too. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there, guys. If you like what you've heard, feel free to subscribe, like, comment, whatever. um, I do also do art, so you can find all of that stuff either on the screen down below. I've made a couple of previous videos on my channel about other things that are on my mind, so I highly, you know, recommend checking them out. But if anything, thank you for being here. Appreciate that. You could have been anywhere else in the world right now, but you are here listening to me. And also check out some of these other guys in the description that I mentioned earlier, and also maybe replace, you know, Facebook, Instagram, and that with GeoCities and Space Haze, and I'll catch you there because I love these platforms. I love visiting them. So thanks for checking this out, guys.